Hey, what's up, everybody? You know what time it is. Your boy Jeffrey L. Boney here for another hot edition of Real Talk Junkies Live. Thank you so much for tuning in. I want to encourage all of you to make sure you share the link with all of your friends, all of your family, all your foes, all your enemies. It don't matter. Everybody needs to check out Real Talk Junkies. Of course, you can share the link. I want to encourage all of y'all to jump in on the chat. Make sure if you have any questions or any comments, make sure you jump in on the chat. And I always want to encourage everybody to check out forwardtimes.com for the latest news going on in the African American community and across the world. And then, of course, jeffreylboney.com. Make sure you always go to jeffreylboney.com. Pick up the new book, Don't Argue With Me, a no-nonsense approach to issues in the Black community. Let's get right into it. I wanted to share something with you. According to a study by a team of Harvard University researchers, uh, early adversity, such as, quote, physical, sexual, and psychological trauma in childhood may lead to psychiatric difficulties that show up in childhood, adolescence, or adulthood. Mrs. Sonia Parker, my guest today, is an individual who actually suffered from those very three things. She joins me today not only to talk about her story and share how she has been able to deal with and overcome childhood trauma, but also talk about some of the issues going on in our world today that may be the result of childhood trauma and trauma in general. Many, trauma is not mutually exclusive to young people, but it starts somewhere. And mostly it starts with a lot of our young people because of some things that they may have gone through in their life. So joining me today, let's welcome everybody, Miss Sonia Parker. Let's give it up, y'all. Yeah. Welcome to Real Talk Junkies on today. All right.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for being with us on today. So, first of all, you are the founder of an organization called PAP, Parents Against Predators.
Yes.
Tell me why you started that organization.
I started Parents Against Predators because it was so many young babies being molested, raped by boyfriends, dads, uncles. And the main two stood out was Emma Thompson from Montgomery County and Shania Davis. I don't know if you're familiar with those two cases. Emma Thomas was molested by the boyfriend. She had herpes in her hands, her mouth, her private area.
And how old was she?
4.
4 years old.
And
Wow.
then Shania Davis' mama sold her for drugs. And the guy packed her in a hotel. It was all over the world, all on the news.
And how old was she?
She was 5.
5 years. So 4
and
and 5 years old.
And
Wow.
that prompted me to start the organization, but it goes back because at an early age, I was being molested. And I didn't talk about it. I kept it a secret till I got my 30s. And the trauma still lives within me through certain things. And as you can see, I'm getting emotional, but
that's fine.
For the longest,
take your time.
For the longest, I felt like it was my fault because I didn't speak up, and I felt like a lot of the babies and children was going through that. It was my fault because I didn't speak up. So I wanted to be a voice, and I want to walk in the courtroom and stand in place of that child that had been murdered, and that's what I do, and that's why I started it.
And I wanted to delve a little bit more into your personal story in your life. I know about 6 years ago, I actually wrote an article on you in the Forward Times.
Yes.
You remember that?
Yes.
And you on your shirt, I remember it vividly. It says, "Whose child next?" And with a question, and it's a sad question to ask. Yeah. Whose child will be next in essence? And to think that a child at 4 years old, at 5 years old, could go through such devastating and horrific situations. Of course, they can't do anything about it in most cases. They're young, they're small, they're vulnerable. And to have individuals in their lives that are supposed to care for you and love you, protect you, to allow those type of things that happen is ridiculous. I'm reminded here, just talking about current events and vulnerability in Oklahoma. There was a guy, 30 years old, named Francois Littlejohn. And many of y'all that are watching the show right now may have seen or heard about this story. But what it entailed was this guy went on live stream, and he live streamed his disdain, his anger, his frustration with his baby mama,
Yes.
his girlfriend, and uh, he talked about how she had given him an STD, and he talked about how, he was messing around, she was messing around with somebody else, and you could hear the pain, the emotion,
Yes.
the anger, the
Yes.
vitriol in his voice, Sonia.
Yes.
And what he ended up talking about, though, that was the most disturbing, normally, you talk about, if he'd have just said, man, I'm gonna kill you, or I'm gonna kill myself,
Yes.
or something like that, that's one thing. But he actually had his three babies, his three children, her children, in the car. 3 years old, 4 years old, and 7 years old.
Wow.
3 years old, 4 years old, and 7 years old. And he said, I'm gonna kill all of them to punish you, to get back at you. And he live streaming and he talking about this. And then the next thing you know, you hear the story. The jogger was running, the lady was jogging. She saw the car on the right side of the road, and it seemed like it was, something wrong. So she went over to investigate what's going on and found all three of them babies executed, and him with a self-inflicted gunshot in his head to kill himself. And you talk about trauma. He was only 30 years of age. So at what point in his life did he get that emotionally disengaged, or that emotionally challenged, or that mad that he would do something like that? What are your thoughts on that story?
That story was hard to read, and what got me was he went to social media.
Yeah.
Social media should have took it serious.
Mm.
They block you for everything. But when it's something like this and he's threatening, they should automatically send some kind of red. It should be some kind of way you can send a red flag. You can find out who it is, blah, blah, blah. But he went to social media. They didn't take it serious. And it was too late when they found the babies. I think it's heartbreaking. But I'm like you, I'm trying to figure out these are his kids. You're supposed to love, parents, mothers, fathers, they supposed to love and protect their children.
What did they do for him to want to take their life? To get back at her. Now, I don't know the full backstory, and I read up on a lot of it, and it seems as if she had been stepping out on him or whatever, and she had just actually a few days prior, per the stories and reports, she had left the house. I guess he may have threatened her. She left the house and left the kids with him, and she went to go do whatever she went to go do. So we can't just, I know it's hard to not ignore the fact that he was the one that did this heinous crime. But
what's her part?
What part did she play in it, and how all of this ended up impacting these kids at the end of the day?
That's something I can't wrap it around my brain to figure out why parents can, I don't see how they can sit there and harm them. I got 12 grandbabies. I love my grandkids to death. They get on my nerves, but I love them to death. I would never harm them. I don't see how any parent, like, I don't know if you're going to touch on this, but I want to. Kendrick Lee, the one mom boyfriend beat him and killed him, and they were in the apartment with the other three siblings. That hurt me to death. You leave your kids in a house, in an apartment by themselves, know nothing. Jeffrey, they had nothing. I went to the apartment. They had nothing in the apartment, nothing but the floor. And the three siblings was in the same room where the deceased brother was all that time, a whole year or something. And her and the boyfriend off, doing whatever, living their life in a whole nother apartment. A mother is supposed to protect, provide, love. But then it goes back to, where was the grandparents? Where was the aunts and uncles? A whole year these kids were in this apartment.
So with stuff like this, when we hear stories and situations like this, everybody is seemingly wanting to place blame, point finger.
Yes.
And it seems like too little, too late. The young lady,
Malia Davis.
Davis, what happened to her? And I know you were actively involved at the courthouse and different stuff like that, relative to the mother's role and responsibility.
Yes.
And that kind of goes back to what I was talking about. That although this man killed his three kids, what role
Did she
play
Mm-hmm.
in contributing to what ended up happening to them? So going to the Malia Davis situation, which I know you know so much about because you were up at the
I
courthouse.
wanted to tear her head off in the courthouse. That's what I wanted to do.
Why?
Because because again, a mother, I don't care where the father is at, the mother is supposed to protect her children at all costs.
Mhm.
And I feel like Malia mother didn't care. That's the type of vibe you get. That's the type of feeling you get when you're around her. Just being around her in the courtroom, like in the courtroom in the hallway, it was like she didn't care.
Mhm.
It was just all about her. It wasn't about Malia.
Mhm.
And that was a hurtful thing what happened to Malia. And I think she played a big part of it. But it goes back to the court system. I blame the court system too. Y'all didn't charge her with anything.
Mm.
It's like she walked. And I think she played a big part in it.
Mhm.
Rest in peace, Malia.
Yeah. And how old was she?
Malia was
5 years old.
5. Yeah. Look, if I get these ages off, I deal with the millions of kids, so don't fault me.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was 5.
Wow,
Yeah.
man. And we could go on and on and on talking about different stories, but going back to the trauma aspect of it. And you said those 3 siblings was in the house with their brother that was deceased for a year. Were you able to talk to those kids or
No,
find out?
those kids are in CPS custody, and you know what? They're gonna have the trauma, all that's gonna be with them for the rest of their life. And I pray that they're in a home where people really care about them.
Hmm. Yeah, because the
Yeah.
CPS system can be quite troubling. I don't know if
Yeah.
you saw the story over the past few days where the CPS worker told a 14-year-old
Yes,
girl.
I heard about it this morning.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, there's a young girl trying to figure out her way in life and trying to figure out how to get some money and make things happen. And the CPS worker, literally on video, tells her that she needs to sell her body to earn some money.
Yes. And CPS,
Come on now.
CPS, they need to close the doors. Just shut the doors because it have been too many babies died under the watch of CPS. I don't support them. I am against them ever since the Malia case came out. And then Kendrick Lee brothers are also in CPS because so when I did the interview, did you look at it?
Mhm.
I made sure I let CPS know we're not giving you a hand clap because you have dropped the ball on so many babies, and it's time for them to step up. And you have people that they don't have enough workers. Hire some people with backgrounds, give people a chance. That'd be their excuse. They don't have enough workers, enough caseworkers, and all this. Hire some people, give people a chance.
So we keep hearing about these stories. We say CPS is a problem. We talk about the court system.
Yes.
Again, it's the point finger. How do we address it? I mean, is there a way to address it? I mean, is there a way to stop these types of things? Some people shouldn't have kids, period.
Exactly.
But I mean, you can't stop them from having kids because that's just the nature of the way God had us made. You can't stop that. I mean, there are ways to prevent it in some cases, but you have irresponsible parents, people.
No, not irresponsible, unfit. That's my favorite word, unfit.
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 Why do you say unfit?
Unfit. That's the definition of unfit. When you ain't taking care of your kids, ain't loving your kids, ain't providing for your kids. My thing is, you do what you gotta do to protect your kids.
Mhm.
Whatever you gotta do. If you gotta go down there to 1201 and see that after, you gotta do whatever you gotta do to protect. I'm gonna protect my grandkids by any means necessary. So whatever come with that.
You got a question, Jeff?
Okay, let's go to the audience.
Why isn't it a natural instinct for some minority mothers
to protect? Like how you're sitting here and saying you would protect at all costs. Why isn't that a natural instinct in our community for some mothers?
Some of them don't care. The reason from my experience of doing this 16 years, the mothers I have and came in contact with the babies that passed away, these mothers put men before their kids.
Mm.
Could it be
They
generational?
men come before their kids.
Mm.
That's
The question was, could this be generational? Like, is this a passed down, like learned behavior, something that they was taught?
Like maybe generations of neglect. Maybe grandma neglected, great grandma neglected. There was not a loving. There was never.
it could be because it's a lot. It's
Okay.
a lot of trauma from back then to now that people carry with them. But the main thing I done seen women put men before their kids.
Let me ask you this, and I want to kind of tie this back to your life. You talked about how you would do anything to protect your grandbabies. So I pretty much assume that you had the same belief with your children.
Oh yeah, well my children, I done let my children out my sight. Like my kids were not, I didn't let them spend the night and all that because I had that fear of what happened to me, what happened to them. And that's how I am my grandkids. My grandkids, I'm very overprotective, very. And they are getting to the age, they are tired of me saying the same thing. Hey, you can't go there. You got to watch you online playing Roadblock. One of my grandsons, he loved Roadblock, whatever that is. So I hear him in the game room talking to people on the
Right, chat.
phone.
Yeah.
And I was like, who you talking to? Oh, this my friend. I said, you don't know them. They could be grown or predator. I let them know, and make them get off and block it. But it's scary because pedophiles and stuff like that, they're on all these sites and on all these games and kids on. And if you're not paying attention, your kids will give your address away, your phone number, and everything. You got to make sure you talk to your kids.
So like I said, going back to you, you said you would do anything to protect your grandbabies, and you just mentioned that you did the same thing with your children, but you did that because of what you experienced.
Yes.
So those individuals that had never experienced those types of things, do you believe that there's a heightened sense of awareness for them, like they kind of let their guards down or not really as cognizant of it than somebody like you who unfortunately experienced it?
Yes, I do believe that a lot of people that haven't experienced and haven't went through it, they do let their guards down. They do let their guards down, but you got to pay attention. You got to pay attention to awareness because they show it on TV, all this stuff going on with either dads, grandfathers, uncles, neighbors, football coaches. You can't trust nobody with your kids. You can't trust nobody. Preachers, you can't trust nobody with your kids. Nobody.
Question from the audience.
Another question from the
Question
audience.
from the audience. So trust nobody with the kids. What's the healthy way to do that to where we're not sheltering, where we're not living in fear, but where we are setting healthy boundaries? What does that look like? Is that just like, don't get out of my sight? Or is there a healthy balance that we can do with that? Or is it just don't let them out your sight?
Jeff, you answer me. Let me think. You go in.
Well, I know.
I think you can. Me, I'm so overprotected. I'm telling you, my grandkids, the oldest one stay with me, she's 13. They ask me every day, can they go outside? Okay, I say no. And you know why? Because I can be in the house. People are crazy. They're pulling up in your driveway, grabbing kids.
Gotcha.
So I see that. I see it go on.
It just happened in my subdivision about a month ago.
You have to watch your kids. If you're not with them, that's just how I am. People can roll how they want to. But once I'm looking at it, and this is happening every day, people would come in your yard and grab your kids.
Jeff, is there a healthy balance to where it's not like very protective, overprotective, very fearful, or is there no such thing as overprotective when it comes to your babies?
When we were having our first child, we both were working. And at the time, and we made a decision that because we used to watch a lot of Maury Povich. This before the baby, this before you are the baby father. Before that came, he used to do like deep shows.
Yeah,
he did shows about like they had the nanny cam, and they would show how these nannies were abusing the babies that they was taking care of, and if not for the fact that they hid a camera somewhere
They
to
wouldn't have
actually
known.
see it, they wouldn't have known. Because what the baby gonna say? If the baby 3 months old or the baby 1 year old, they not gonna be able to tell you what they just experienced or
Yes.
went through.
Yes.
So it was that type of situation, and we're talking about back in 1998,
Yes.
where there was this heightened awareness, like we don't want that. So yes, there was this protectiveness, this sheltered, like, what, let me try to figure out how we can do our best to raise our child, because we know if we love our children the way we love our children, then we're not going to put that responsibility in the hands of anybody else, because we don't believe that you're going to love them like I love them or we love them. And so there's a lot of parents out there, unfit
Yes.
mothers and fathers,
Right.
who don't have that care. They just like, I want to go to the club, so I'm gonna let cousin such and such watch them, or I'll let my sister watch them,
Right.
or whatever the case may be. So there is a healthy balance, but you have to be, especially today, like what Sonia just said. I mean, you got online, social media we didn't have
Crazy.
social media back when I was growing up. We had the phone, and
Yes.
you be on the phone, and then
People.
your grandma pick up, be like, "Who you on the phone? We can have my phone."
Pick up the line.
Yeah, pick up the line. We had the wall phone, or the rotary dial and stuff like that. But we didn't have social media. We didn't have Instagram, Twitter, being in your DMs,
Yes.
none of that stuff. You actually didn't have cell phones. Then so it's a lot has changed today, whereby I believe that things that like what she's talking about in my neighborhood about a month or two ago, it was all over the news. It was an 11-year-old African American girl in my subdivision that got taken from her house, from in front of her house, actually he went into the backyard, got her, and took her to his truck, a Hispanic guy, and got in the truck, and they drove off. And so the Amber Alert went off. They ended up finding her, thank God, alive. But she actually chose to leave. She climbed down the second floor of their house in the backyard, and he came and met her in the backyard and took her to the truck.
So
and then
she
they
knew
drove.
him.
She did not know him. She met him online.
Right.
She met him online,
Again.
and he convinced her to leave, but she had done it before.
Last question about the child safety. What about community? Is it possible to create a healthy community, maybe of your best friend, your auntie? Can you create a community where your child is going here, and there, to where your child won't have to just always be with you, but is there some family members that are trusted? Can you build a healthy community, or even then, is it your eyes only on your child?
My
eyes only for you.
My eyes, because you can't trust people
and who they would have around.
Yeah, you can't trust people.
But I will say, for me, I would not agree that sole responsibility has to fall on you. It is a major responsibility on you, but there's other things in life that may prevent you from being there 24/7 for your child. And so you have to build some community of trust, a village,
something
whereby you if you never had kids, it's one thing, but when you have a child, it changes your view, or should. It's an undertaking. It's a major responsibility. So how much do you care about your child? And I think that Sonia made a point that I think that definitely needs to be explored further, that many of these individuals, particularly women, put the man before their child, and that man comes first over their children. And I don't know, maybe you could speak to that, Sonia. Why is that?
I have no idea, because I never did that. I never did that. I wish I would, but anyway, I don't understand it. Like, you allow a man to be raped, and some of these women be knowing, they be knowing what's going on with their kids, and they so caught up with this man that they don't stop it. I want to go back to something you saying about the 11-year-old. I get calls all the time about missing children here, missing teenagers. One incident was the little boy on Homestead. That said the white people grabbed him in the truck and he seen bodies. You remember that story? We were headed to protest or something, I got a call from the chief. He said, "Come down here before y'all go do all that." Went down there, sat at the table with all them big people, and the little boy was lying. They never had video of him getting off the bus, this, that, and that. So that kind of prompted me to not jump every time I people calling me about people kids missing, because you have a lot of kids lying. You have a lot of kids online, parents on their phones talking to grown men. You have a lot of kids that's online. I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, my kids, not my kids." Yes, your kids.
Mm,
Yes, your kids.
mm,
They all do it.
mm,
They online. They don't know who they talking to.
mhm.
So that prompted me not to get up and move so fast.
You know, it's interesting that you bring that up because I had a similar situation. Matter of fact, with the Forward Times, several years ago, I had just started in journalism, and Derek Muhammad
Mhm.
and I spoke about a young lady who claimed to have been raped. She claimed that she was raped getting off of that she missed the school bus, so she was forced to take the metro bus because
Mhm.
the school bus left her, and she had to get on the metro bus. And upon getting off the metro bus, she was snatched and taken into an abandoned house and raped. Was her story. Now, I got mad about it because when I reached out to HISD at that time, I was trying to figure out why the young lady was left, why she was forced to get on the metro bus, and basically kind of going with her story.
Mhm.
And her mom was believing her story, as well. So, in talking with them both, and Derek Muhammad, like I said, he and I were involved. I decided to write a story about how this young lady was put in harm's way, and allowed to be vulnerable, to be
Mhm.
raped. And one of the same things occurred. The communications person for HISD said, before you run that story, give us an opportunity to find out more information and get back to you. Because if in fact this is true, we take responsibility for it, but we want to make sure that the facts are correct.
Mhm.
We had already, sent the paper to print on Tuesday. We had already sent the paper to print. It was my headline lead story. And I forget the name of the title. I got to go find it. But that next day, because something in my gut kept telling me something ain't right about
Yeah.
this. That next day, come to find out, and Derek Muhammad and I talked about it, that the young lady had lied, that she did not get kidnapped, that she did not miss, or that the bus did not leave her. She chose to get on that other bus, and she actually went with a guy and ended up having sex with them, but had to use that excuse because the mama was like, "Where are you?
Yeah.
Why you ain't
It
home?"
happened.
So she did lie about that. But again, let's get back to the childhood trauma aspect of this. Like, what is it that's going on with many of our young people that are causing them to do things like that? To
You talking about the lost generation? That's what I call them. I
well,
call them the lost generation because the younger kids today, the younger teens, they don't want to hear nothing we gotta say. They don't care about what we went through. And I had this discussion with one of my friends today because she having a whole lot of issues with her son.
mhm,
So I had to call a couple of HPD cops to try to talk to him. He on probation, just got on probation, don't want to listen, still doing whatever he doing. I just had this talk with her. I call them the lost generation for the simple fact they don't care about what's going on. They gonna still do what they doing.
mhm.
They out here doing so much, and they not listening to their parents. And she love her kids, and like I told her, I say I don't want him to end up in the system. So let's try to get him some help.
And
Let's
how
try to
old is he?
He's 16,
Okay.
and they just put him on 2 years probation.
Mm,
He didn't go to school today. Probation officer called. She told her he didn't go to school because he was up all night with his friends. And I told her, I said, you gotta catch him now. Because if he and he's good at sports and all that, but he don't want to do that. He want to hang out, smoke weed, not listen to her. These young people don't want to listen. They don't want to listen. I don't care from OG to Derek to you to me to whoever. They don't want to listen.
mm.
And that's hard because you don't want to see them locked up, and then you don't want to see them get killed.
So going back to parents against predators, you created this organization because of, like you mentioned, two children that had these horrific experiences take place. And since you started this 16 years ago, I know you've seen so much more. Way
So
more.
much.
Tell me, tell me how this organization is actually making a difference in your experience.
I feel like my organization, Parents Against Predators, is making a big difference for the simple fact that we also have a program called Keeping the Youth Out the System, which I started that program with Chief Fenner, and we would take the kids, bus the kids, or take the kids to Macau Road.
The jail.
They let them do the tour. Chief would close the jail down, lock it down, and they would do the tour. The inmates would come out and talk to them. Jeffrey, I have Hoffman Middle School, Key Middle School. All these schools are calling me to bus kids to the program. I have kids young as 5, from 5 on up in the program. Out of the program, 2 kids is the trouble kids, and that's the one of the guys, one little young man I was talking to, and another boy staying 8 leave. Everybody else is doing great since this program started. I feel like my organization is helping in different areas. That area, we help with back to school. We help all year round. I try my best to help all year round. But whatever they call me, I'm there. So I feel like my organization is the best in Houston.
Well, you know what? You said something earlier at the start of the program that I kind of want to circle back on. And I wanted to kind of talk about some of the things going on in society before kind of going back to talk about you. And you talked about it being emotional. And you said that even today, you're still dealing with
Trauma.
Uh,
I'm still dealing with trauma, Jeffrey, because right before I got dressed, I had like a breakdown. And it's hard when you don't have parents. And then I want people to understand trauma. When you dealing with somebody with trauma, any type of trauma, stop calling them crazy if you haven't been through what they've been through. Because if you haven't been through the trauma they've been through, you don't understand it.
mhm.
So if I'm sitting here and we together and I've been molested and I'm trying to talk to you about it, and you hollering I'm bipolar, I'm crazy, you don't understand what I'm going through because you haven't dealt and been through what I've been through. So it's hard to deal with people. I'd rather block people out and not deal with them if they don't know what I'm going through, because there have been so many people call me crazy, bipolar, whatever. Okay, let me put you over here if I curse you out.
Mhm, mhm.
And I just still deal with it. I had a breakdown this morning.
Well, let's talk about your life, and we'll come to the audience.
Oh yeah. The point she was making about so you're over 21. We're not gonna say your exact age.
I'm 56.
I was the same thing. So past 50 years old and still having trauma from something that happened as a child, as a teen. For the people that say just get over it, for the people that say that's been years, you don't want to heal, that you're just making excuses. Have you tried counseling? Have you tried medication? Why does it still hurt so much? Why aren't you able to, for yourself, move past that? And it's been 20, 30 years. What do you say to that?
That was a question.
It's
Really?
like, yeah.
Oh, okay. If you haven't experienced it, why? And I'm gonna say that because it's hard to get over it. It's hard to get over it. You can forgive, but you'll never forget. And it's different things come to you that it comes to you, and that's what caused the trauma. And it's just something you'll never get over. You'll never get over that. The people I talked to last night when we did the show, some of these people say they would never get over it. They would never get over it. Because they told parents, they told grandma, they told grandpa, and they told them to be quiet. But my trauma, it comes and goes. And if you haven't been through it, and if you with somebody and they don't understand it, you need to get away and go talk to somebody that understand you, because people always call me crazy.
Is it possible to fully heal from a trauma, even though it's you'll never forget it? Is it possible to fully heal from a trauma? Say if somebody was molested, like to fully heal, understand what it was to hurt, to go through those real emotions, and then to move past that? Is it possible?
For me, no,
Okay.
because I talk about it a lot and I meet a lot of people that went through what I went through. And when I hear their story, it brings me back to
You in an
mine.
environment, you
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
in that.
So let's talk about that, Sonia. Um, and I remember the story, although it was 6 years ago. I mean, I
Mhm.
remember it like it was yesterday. And I thank you for trusting me. I think that was the first time you
Yeah.
really shared your
Yes,
story
yes.
in that type of way, that you were that vulnerable. But if I can recall, at the age of 13,
11, between 11
11
and
to
13.
13,
I'm too old, Jeffrey. I can't. I don't know why he taking me there. I'm too old. I can't go back that far.
but
But
between
I
11,
was a young teenager.
yeah,
Yes.
between that time frame, you had gotten well, just let's talk about, like, you had gotten molested by your uncle,
Two uncles.
two uncles.
Mhm.
Um,
I want to say this. One of them passed away, and that was like a relief. The other one's still living. Um, when you being molested or you being raped at an early age, you don't know what you're doing, and it's hurtful to. It still hurt me because what I'm about to say is you start enjoying this because you don't know what it is. And for the longest, after this was over, that's my trauma. Knowing it was wrong, it's nasty, it was disgusting. I blame myself
mm.
for having sex with my uncle. Like
But it wasn't something that
no, no,
they put you in that
yeah.
situation.
I
So have
remember
you?
my first encounter, and I seen the blood. I didn't know what that was.
Mhm.
I was a virgin,
Right.
so I remembered it. I still remember it.
So let me ask you this: you talk about parents and your mom. But were both your mom and dad in your life at
Both
this
my
point?
mom and dad were still married till death, and they were still yeah. My mom and
And
dad was still.
so you talk about now being so overprotective of your grandchildren and how you were with your children. Do you believe that they were not protecting you? Did you blame them at all?
I didn't blame them, but I feel like I wasn't protect. They weren't protecting me like I protect my grandkids
But I'm saying is, at the time though,
at the
did
time.
you feel as if at that time when it actually happened that they let you down, or did you grow into having this anger or maybe disappointment with your parents, or did you even let them know?
No, I didn't. I didn't take it out on them. I wasn't angry. I didn't feel like they let me down. I felt like it was all my fault. I felt like it was all my fault it happened. I feel like it was all my fault I didn't tell them. And they both passed away in 2003 and I never told them. And I feel like that was my fault. And this is why I work so hard with my organization because kids don't tell. They don't tell. They not gonna tell. Younger kids, we dealing with younger kids. You have 3, 4, 5 year olds. They not gonna tell. Other ages, they not gonna tell. So that's why I work so hard to spread awareness about child abuse and sexual abuse and stuff like that. And that's why I fight so hard for kids because I didn't tell. And I don't know why, but I didn't tell. I had a mom and dad, and I didn't tell. So
So there are individuals
Real
that,
quick, Jeff, you got Armand, you got Sarah Boney, you got Monterio, all saying God bless you, sis.
thank
Praying for you.
you.
Keep
Thank
pushing.
you.
Your strength is beautiful.
Thank you.
all right, thank you. So, and I know it's extremely difficult and tough to talk about this and continue to rehash it, but as you do, this is also providing some hope and help to
Yes.
those that may have gone through a similar situation, to see that although this trauma continues to impact your life, and in your case, it was sexual abuse as a child, uh, that led to other things, but they may have gone through trauma in some other physically being abused, beaten, malnourished.
Yes.
There's a lot of
It's a
different
lot of different.
types of
Yeah, it is.
trauma that exists out there. But I think that you're an extremely brave woman and person. And although you weren't able to share that with your parents at that time, that you're sharing it with the world now,
Yes.
and they're looking down, and they see you and the brave and bold and transparent woman that you have become and that you are. And I think that you're helping so many people to deal with their own internal struggles and trauma, and hopefully protect future generations
Yeah.
of people, kids, from being set up and put in the same situation.
Yeah, I agree. It was something you was talking about, totally, but Jeffrey, the situation and the trauma and the section, it is so many people. Every time I tell my story, it's 10 to 20 people come out and say, I didn't want to say nothing, but when I heard your story, it encouraged me to talk about. It is just, it's so many people. It's
Mhm.
so many people. And I'm not just talking about women, I'm talking about men too.
Mm.
I'm talking about both. It's so many people have been through this.
Hmm.
And some people never said a word till they heard me talk.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's hard.
So let me ask you a question. I want to shift gears just a little bit and get your thoughts on R. Kelly. R. Kelly was just sentenced to 30 years in prison for you know various charges, and there's been a lot of people who've been on the side of, they felt like he didn't do anything wrong. They felt like it was the parents who allowed their young girls to uh, be put in those situations. Of course, we know back in the day, the video had come out with, the urination on the. I think the girl was supposed to have been 14 or something at the 15
Yes.
at the time. Um, so, what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on R. Kelly. He was a African American man with a lot of money,
Hmm.
around a lot of girls.
Hmm.
Some I don't know, I wasn't there, but I think that he did violate some young girls.
Hmm.
And then I think some of the girls' parents were getting paid
Hmm.
for them being there.
Hmm.
So I'm not gonna put all the blame on R. Kelly. I'm gonna start with the parents too.
Hmm.
Because why would you take your underage child or girl to anything dealing with grown men? Because he was grown.
Hmm.
So I fought him and them.
Hmm. You think he deserved 30 years or more, or
I
no?
think 30 good for him.
You think,
I think 30
you think
good.
30 was good?
I think 30 good.
Okay, so you
Yeah.
think he deserved to be
I
sentenced
think he deserved to be in jail. Yeah.
for 30 years?
Yeah, I think he deserved 30 years.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
He played a part. He knew they were underage. But the parents too, I think they should be charged.
Okay, so what should they get?
Same as
30
he got.
years?
30 years to give all them 30
So
years.
why aren't they being charged? Why aren't they being held accountable?
And they making no noise. If they was here, we'd be making some noise.
Uh,
Yeah, people don't make noise, ain't that gonna happen.
mm.
So
And they not R. Kelly.
that
Yeah.
too.
Well, I thought that's an interesting perspective. So, you had a lot of people, then they like, you shouldn't listen to his music because, of what he did. And it's like, well, I listened to R. Kelly. That was Robert Kelly. It was like, that was Robert Kelly that did that,
Yeah,
not R. Kelly.
yeah.
But no, I mean, I just think it's an unfortunate situation. But going back, though, the reason I brought up R. Kelly is because he talked about, as a child, how his relatives had abused him sexually,
Oh, I didn't know that.
and his brother, R. Kelly, and his brother came out publicly and stated that it was they had dealt with childhood sexual abuse by a relative,
Wow.
and so that is interesting because I guess, unlike you, you were saying that you felt like it was, you eventually found out, felt like it was wrong, and determined it was wrong. And but you didn't act out in a way that was similar to what had happened to you.
Yes.
Like sexually abusing or assaulting other kids and other people, relatives or whatever. And I think about what he talked about, and I think about, I don't know how much you know or knew about your uncles, uh, and what their backstory was like, and what have you ever had a conversation with?
No.
Did you ever have a conversation
No.
with them?
I don't. I don't want to see them. Well, one deceased and the other one still living. I just feel like when I'm around them, I still remember that,
Mm-hmm.
and that feeling just would never go away.
So you said when the one uncle died, you felt a sense of relief.
Yes,
Why?
I just felt like I can breathe, I can live, I just,
So you
it was
feel like
just
he
a
held you
feeling.
emotionally hostage?
I don't know what it was, Jeffrey. It was just like, rest in peace. Like, that was it. Like,
Mhm.
I just never wanted to see him, talk to him, none of that, because I remember that. And it don't, I didn't never want this to come out because I don't want family question, da da da. But it happened. It happened to me. I don't,
Mhm.
it happened to me, and I'm gonna speak and say what I want to say, But
Man, you beat me to the punch, because I was going to ask you another question about that family. When you decided that you were going to share your story publicly about what happened to you, clearly, because you're sharing this story, although you didn't name names in the story, the one I wrote, you didn't name any particular names. I mean, people ain't stupid in your family,
yeah,
I'm sure,
yeah,
and that's in your circle. So they could only deduce, like, who could it be?
yeah.
And I'm sure you got approached.
I got asked by certain people, but I still never said that. I never talked about it outside of you. I don't, other than what we talking about in the conversation. I never,
So,
because I don't feel the need to talk.
but I mean, you only got so many uncles.
Yeah,
So that's what I'm
yeah.
saying. I mean, with so many uncles,
And
people are left to be like, who's she talking about?
and those uncles probably was doing it to other cousins before me,
Mm.
but nobody came out and said nothing.
So after you came out and said anything, still nobody has.
Mm-mm.
Wow.
Because you know why? It's it's go back to like when your grandparents say don't say nothing, don't do.
Family
Some
business.
people hold it in, like me. I held it in,
Mm.
and I dealt with so much trauma and all kind of stuff, relationship problems.
And I want to get to that, because I mean, you talk about trauma, and it's a vague term, but I want to get into some specifics of what that looked like. How did you deal with it, and what kind of things happened that you lashed out, or you had some outward
Okay.
expression? Yes.
As we get into our last 9 minutes of the show, our last 10 minutes, some of the questions were already answered. Was her uncle punished? Like, if you don't know who, so
No,
he wasn't. He
no.
wasn't identified, and that's the case with so many people that have been holding on to it. They don't reveal who the predator
Yes.
is. So we want to make sure within the 9 minutes that you all do give resources for, if there is someone watching the show or watch the rebroadcast, resources for women that have not told or need counseling, need help, need to journey with somebody. We want to make sure we give resources for them.
Yeah. Well, we definitely want to get into that, but you talk about trauma. So how did you? I mean, you said relationship problems. Talk about what you dealt with, how you've, over these 56 years. Or
I just got cold. I used to be let people run over me, and I always felt like when something was done wrong to me, it was my fault. Then I just got up out of there and took my light back, and I got cold. And you can't just step to me in the kind of way,
Mhm.
and that's just how I am. And when people see me, they feel like I'm a problem. No, I'm not gonna let you handle me and do me in the kind of way.
Mhm.
And that's why I say I took my life back and stood up, and moving forward, I try to stay positive if I can. But when you cross me, I'm just not gonna let nobody do me in a kind of way no more.
Mm.
And I live my life to the fullest, and nobody can tell me nothing different. And that's just how it
Do
is.
you
But
believe that you punished or lashed out or gave people that you were in relationships with, not just dating relationships, but any friendships or whatever, do you believe that they were kind of getting the brunt of your anger or,
Yes.
you know, and do you regret some of the responses maybe that you gave to people because of maybe it wasn't their fault or it was just you lashing out? I guess what I'm asking is because, you know, you have to continue to live your life. And as part of doing that, you have different types of relationships, co-workers or people that you do business with.
I'm retired now, Jeff.
Okay, well,
I'm
friends,
retired.
friends. Well, you still got PAP, so you're not retired from
Well,
working.
I'm retired from the other job.
Yeah, I got what you're saying, but you know, I mean, you got friendships, relationships, whatever. So I mean, sometimes when you holding on to those things, you could lash out to things, you know.
I lash out, and that's when I think I replied to the question that she asked earlier. I'm lashing out because people don't understand the trauma I've been through,
Hmm.
and it could be something that triggered me, and I lash out, and it's you're not gonna know if you ain't been through it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I can explain it all day. Like, look, I'm going through this, that, and that, or this happened, or this triggered me, or don't, and it's really hard to answer. It really is
Yeah,
hard to
because
answer.
if a person is really don't know that part of your life,
Yeah,
and all they're getting is your response,
yeah. And they think
they
I'm a problem. I'm not a problem. I'm so lovable. I'm so lovable. If I ever offended anybody, I apologize. But if you cross me, I'm gonna come for you.
right. But
Yeah.
so that's the thing, though. It's like, you know, you're not gonna in every conversation be like,
Yeah.
well, this is what I went through,
Yeah.
and that's why I do or say what I say or respond the way I respond. So how does a person deal with someone, I guess with anybody, I mean, not knowing their past or their life story, or someone like yourself who had trauma? Like, how do they?
Jeff, that's hard to answer. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie because one day I'm like this, and the next day
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
something else. So, and I think it's hard because I did go to counseling. I went to counseling 2, 3 times for this, and the people I'm sitting talking with, this the therapists, they haven't been through this.
Mm,
Why the hell would I go talk to you and you ain't been through this?
hmm.
So it's hard, and
Mhm.
I see as of last night the show, so many people's coming on saying they went to counseling and it didn't help because the people I'm talking to you, Jeff. I'm coming to pay you to help me, and you haven't even been touched. You haven't been sexually abused. How you gonna help me?
Mm,
You only listening to what I'm saying, feeding out what I'm saying.
hmm.
So it's one day I'm like this and one day I'm not. One day I'm smiling, one day I'm mad. One day I'm screaming, one day
Hmm.
it is what it is.
But you do believe counseling is something that could help.
No.
Mm.
If you haven't been through what I've been through, no.
So what can help? We talked about resources. Where can someone who's dealing with this go?
Oh my God. Me, what I can only speak from my experience. I go to people that have been through it.
Hmm.
And that's why I'm starting the show with Real. And we're gonna discuss it. We're gonna be on, we're gonna go on, we're gonna talk, we're gonna all get our team and we're gonna come in and we're gonna work with people that have been through it because those are only people I can talk to. I
Hmm.
can't talk to nobody that haven't been through this.
No, you say there's a group or of y'all riff. What is that?
Riff is a new app. It's like in Instagram, Facebook, and they gave me a platform. So I'm gonna be on the platform talking about overcoming childhood trauma.
Mhm.
And different people that dealt with that been through it, they come on, we all talk about it. They tell what happened to them and we all talk about it, cry, get over,
Mhm.
That's all we can do because it's nothing. Like if you go to therapy and that person haven't been through it, they cannot help you.
So
And it took me a long time to realize these people I've been talking to, they haven't been through what
so
I've
would it
been
be
through.
helpful to actually go to counseling or to a therapist who may have gone through it?
But how will we know?
That's
Because they don't give you those details on okay, I'm gonna send you to Jeffrey Bonner. He been through what
It's
you've been through.
confidential.
Yes.
Yeah.
And most of these people that are sitting on the other side we talk to, they haven't been through this.
So there may be a need for that. I mean, I know it was mentioned it was confidential, but it sounds like there's a need for, like, if you have an alcohol problem,
Yes.
you know you can go talk to somebody at
They've been
Alcoholics
through it.
Anonymous,
Yes.
or if you have a drug
Support
problem,
group.
support
Yes.
groups.
Yes.
Yeah, somebody who lost a child through murder.
Yes.
You know, there are groups for that. It sounds like there needs to be some sort of a platform, a group, and maybe the one you're creating is it. I don't know, but that gives survivors of sexual abuse or who trying to deal with that trauma a platform to express themselves with people that have gone through some of the things. So I just want to thank you
Thank you for having me on.
for coming on. You're always welcome here on Real Talk Junkies. I know that we're talking about trauma and you a lot, but I know you have so much more depth to you as far as issues that you deal with in the community as an activist, and have a lot of thoughts on things that are going on in our community, in our world. I know you one of the first ones be out here protesting, holding signs, marching.
I kind of stopped doing that. I'm tired of protesting. It's time to fight, baby.
Right.
Yeah, I'm ready to put my boots on.
Right. So, but you've been on the front line, and I just thank you again for being vulnerable, transparent, and real, because it takes a lot to put yourself out there like that,
Yes.
and to be honest about you're still dealing with the trauma, and that you're honest. And a lot of people are not honest with themselves, let alone other people. They're not honest with themselves about who they are and what they're going through. So thank you so much. Is there a website people can go check out?
My website is www.protectchild1.org.
Say it one more time, a little slower.
www.protectchild1.org. I'm sorry.
Okay. www.protectchild1.org. So make sure y'all go check out the website. If there's any thing, what can people do to help? Or
they can go to Facebook too. Facebook Parents Against Predators. Donate, volunteer. Just go to the site and sign up.
Well, we thank you again for
All
being
right,
on
thank
Real
you.
Talk Junkies on today, y'all. That'll do it. Again, make sure y'all check out the latest news, forwardtimes.com. Of course, go check me out on the website. Get the book, Don't Argue With Me, jeffreylboney.com. And make sure you tune in for the next edition of Real Talk Junkies coming real soon, y'all. Next week. Holla, let's go.